They all come here with a dream.
There you go.
Their talent, hard work, and drive have led them to this moment. This is where they make a name for themselves, where they show the world who they really are, where they prove the doubters wrong.
Touchdown, Ravens!
And where they prove they're more than relevant.
Wow, Brock Purdy!
This year brings a standout class of big-name talents, eager to follow the superstar paths of those who came before them. Today, the Game Wreckers take center stage, striking fear in opposing quarterbacks and rewriting game plans with every devastating move. The next great story begins here, where future stars seize the moment. This is the 2024 NFL Scouting Combine.
For the 37th year, the eyes of the NFL talent evaluation world descend upon Indianapolis, Indiana, and another edition of the NFL Scouting Combine, where for 4 days we've seen steaks and sound bites, but now it gives way to the Lucas Oil Stadium spotlight, where the first groups here at the Combine will take the field for on-field workouts. Defensive line and linebackers are up first, and we are ready for it. Welcome, friends, to another year here of Combine Today as we get you ready for all the on-field drills here with the defensive line and linebackers. What's up, everybody? Rhett Lewis back here with my Combine Today crew, former NFL scout Bucky Brooks, our NFL media draft analyst Lance Zerline, and guys, for draft junkies like us, we love this week, right? We love everything about it, right? From Monday to Monday, all that this event gives us some great perspective on this draft group. What are you most excited about with this Combine?
Well, I'm most excited to see a handful of players, and the player that I'm most excited about is Quinyon Mitchell from Toledo. And the reason why I'm excited about him is because he was a star at the Senior Bowl. I want to see if he can put it together. Can he dazzle as an athlete? If he does some of that decathlete stuff, then we're going to really be buzzing about his name.
We'll get back into some of the other players, too. Is there anything overall as we go from Thursday to Sunday that really kind of has you curious to see here, Lance?
Well, for me personally, what I do, right, I write all the scouting reports. And so for me, I want to see what these guys look like on the hoof, as they say, is in the scouting community. I want to go down on the field. It's one thing to see somebody on tape. It's another thing to be able to get down and see the body structure, feel the player. Is he, what kind of juice do they have? Because it matters. Zay Flowers is a great example. I watched Zay Flowers out here last year, and I'm like, man, does he own Lucas Field already? Because he was walking around like he was just leasing space to all the other wide receivers. And so a lot of times it's the physical looks. Of course, it's the testing, but it's also the body language and the attitude out here. I think that's something that you can't really get unless you're watching, and it's even better if you're in person.
And that's, you get a chance to see who are the real competitors out here. Like, who just loves being out here to compete with some of the very best?
But, you know what? Bucky's guy, Quinyon Mitchell, and I know you're excited to see him. At Senior Bowl, this dude was competing.
Yeah, and we'll continue to dig into that here in just a second. Here's what we got coming up for you today. Of course, NFL Network, your home for all things Scouting Combine. Of course, also on NFL Plus. It's the Scouting Combine presented by Noble. Today begins 3 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll take you right up until 3 p.m. Eastern here on Combine Today, where you'll then get to see the defensive line. That's interior defensive linemen and edge rushers, and then, of course, the linebackers all getting set to roll here today. But, Bucky, getting back to Quinyon Mitchell, who, Lance mentioned had a really nice Senior Bowl, guy who probably has already solidified himself as a first-round draft pick. But to continue to compete, to continue to put that profile together in an event like this is still pretty important.
It's still important. I was so excited about him. I jumped the gun. I just started talking about the guy right away because, look, he's one of the guys that we want to see. You just don't see corners that have the size, the speed, the athleticism that he has. We can talk about the dog and the nastiness that he displays, but then the skill set. So we talk about big corners. Normally they don't move like that.
Yeah.
But a little birdie on the street told me that
more.
you may want to watch out. They want to watch out for Quinyon Mitchell, he might be one of the stars of the combine.
Your little birdies are almost always – they're always right, actually. When Bucky tells you a birdie tells him something, then he knows it. And, you know, I've got a little birdie telling me that Byron Murphy is going to be the guy that is going to blow up the combine. But I already knew that. I mean, if you watch this guy on tape, if you know about his background, if you see him compete, you know that Byron Murphy is that guy. He's explosive off the snap. He's into the backfield. We're going to see him today. So right off the bat,
freak show.
I can't wait to see the testing. I think he's going to run fast. I think he's going to run in the 4.7s, believe it or not, at 297 pounds. But this is a guy who has great change of direction. He has explosive get-off. That should show up in his 40 time, in his short area testing, and in his broad jump and vertical. I think you're going to see all of his game show up today in the testing.
So Byron Murphy we will see today. Buck, your guy Quinion Mitchell we'll see on Friday. And then on Saturday, you guys are going to see the player that I'm most excited to watch at this year's Combine when the quarterbacks, wide receivers, and running backs take the field, and it's Washington wideout Rome Odunze. The only of the top 3 wideouts in this year's draft class that's actually going to be out here on the field competing. Cannot wait to watch Rome kind of showcase himself as one of the alphas in this group. A guy who's a great competitor. You see that on the tape when you watch him. You know, I think he's got great athleticism, but he's got that physicality at that 6'3", 215-pound frame. He can go up and get balls that are contested. He'll you know, the 50-50 balls are more like 60-40, 70-30. I love the way he competes at the catch point. And then, you know, we're not going to see him block anybody, but he will get out there and put his face in your shoulder pads and clear the way for a running back, which he did at Washington this year, like Dylan Johnson, who we'll also see on Saturday when the running backs get out there. So can't wait to watch Rome Odunze. He's already going to be one of the first receivers off the board, but the fact that he's still competing here in this event, I think, is really cool. All right, let's dig in now on a player who maybe has the most to prove this week, Bucky. Is there a guy that fits that bill for you in this group?
Well, it's interesting that you talked about his wide receiver 1 in Odunze, because Michael Penix has a lot to prove. He has a lot to prove because I think people are still sleeping on his game. Not necessarily because he doesn't have all the things that you look for in the position, but injuries, 4 season-ending injuries during his time at
Let's not talk about old stuff, all right?
I'm just saying, so he has all that other stuff, but I don't know if I've seen a better, more effective big play hunter than Penix. When he throws it, it's like a kid playing Madden. It's bombs away.
Let's go.
Big plays, explosive shots. You got to love what he's able to do in the vertical game, and he has shown in big stages. That game versus Texas that you have talked about a few different times, man, he lit them up. I mean, I want to see him light it up this weekend and show people that he is one of the best throwers that we've seen.
It's the best game I saw from any quarterback this year was Penix versus Texas. But the guy with some of the best tape this year for me was Bo Nix. I thought Bo Nix really, the stats are great, but when you watch him, he was poised, he threw with accuracy, he threw with a great arm talent. But here's my problem. This is why I think he has something to prove. Number one, I'll start with the fact that the top 3 quarterbacks, or at least the perceived top 3 quarterbacks, are not throwing here. It's a great opportunity for Bo Nix to really shine, and I think he needs to, because at the Senior Bowl, he came off a red-hot season and great tape and really looked out of sorts at the Senior Bowl. And I know it's different receivers, I know it's a different type of offense, but Bo looked a little bit out of sorts, and I think he needs to come out here, have some command, throw with accuracy, and show the physical stuff that he does, because this is the spotlight for he and J.J. McCarthy and Michael Penix. Those 3 guys, man, this is a great chance.
Oh, it's good. That's exactly where I'm going to end up going here, talking about a player with the most to prove, because I think J.J. McCarthy could very well end up as the guy that really has the most to gain from this entire event, both on the field in the workouts and in the interview rooms, where I am just fairly certain that he is going to impress NFL evaluators with his command of offensive football and with his leadership and his charisma. A guy that his teammates at Michigan absolutely loved. Started for 2 years, essentially. Obviously brought Michigan to a national championship, brought them back in that Rose Bowl with a chance to go down there and win that game in overtime. I think he has shown flashes of very high-level quarterback play, fitting balls into tight windows, everything that you want. He's got some good athleticism, too, so could do really well in the testing. I just think the concern is the volume of that high-level quarterback play, and it's not his fault. It's just he did what he was asked to do at Michigan in a very run-heavy offense.
Yeah,
know what
so
I mean?
you just have to take this and evaluate. You just have to look at the system, look at the player, grade the player for what he displays, and try and project out how he
That's
performs
it.
at the next level.
Maybe a bit more of a projection with J.J. McCarthy, but certainly a player with first-round talent. All right, Bucky, let's take a look at your mock draft 2.0.
Let's get into this.
You've got the quarterbacks going 1, 2, 3, which
1, 2, 3.
You know, I don't know that that's necessarily a hot-button topic, but the order of which those quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3, I think will be eventually. Marvin Harrison at 4 to the Cardinals seems like a slam dunk if that's the way the first 3 picks go. You've got your first tackle as Joe Alt going to the Chargers. The wide receivers then fall in line at 6 and 7 with the edge rushers coming off the board, bottom end of the top 10, and Talisi Fuaga, number 2 offensive lineman, ends up going to the Jets. But it all starts with Caleb Williams at number 1.
Williams stood right in and delivers it. Caleb Williams, that's some play. What a just display. Williams steps up and now flips it to a man. What a throw. Caleb Williams is absolutely ludicrous.
Caleb Williams, who I feel like might be suffering from a little bit of I've been the number one thought of quarterback for the last 2 calendar years, suffering from a little bit of that fatigue, right? And obviously didn't have the year at USC this year that maybe we expected after a phenomenal first year there in Los Angeles. But it is the question of the Combine. Bucky Brooks, should the Bears trade Justin Fields, move away from him, who they drafted in the first round a couple of years ago, and then find their new franchise quarterback at number 1 in Caleb?
What if I told you that you had a potential MVP already at quarterback? Would you trade that away? Because if you look at the last 20 games with
Potential
Justin Fields,
get you fired, Buck.
No, if you look at the last 20 games with Justin Fields in comparison to Lamar Jackson, his numbers are comparable, if not even better.
Okay.
Passing yards, rushing yards, touchdowns, completion percentage, all right there. So if you're the Chicago Bears, and I know everybody loves the new shiny toy. They love the new quarterback to come in and save the day in the Windy City. But I'm saying your savior may already be in Chicago, and he wears number 1, Justin Fields. I don't know, man. I'm just saying you got all this draft capital. You can build a team around him. Why not continue to do that dance with Justin Fields? Like, why remove him when you're now just building up the team to accommodate a guy who's a first-round talent?
I remember back to the great comedian Robin Harris, who once said, gotta go, gotta go. We got to move him on out. It's time to push him out.
Reset.
He's had his shot. We're resetting the rookie contract. We're getting the more polished passer in the building. Yes, we've been talking about what if Justin Fields does this year? What if he does it this year? I'm ready to say, what if Caleb Williams does it? And I think Chicago will too, and for a couple of reasons. Number one, it'd be great to get your hands on draft picks if you moved out of one and you stuck with and maybe that's in their consideration. They're still considering with Justin Fields. But for me, Ryan Poles, man, if he is going to go down at any point, he wants to do it with a quarterback that was of his choosing. So I think this is already a done deal. I think Caleb Williams will be the Bears' number 1 pick, and you'll have, Eberflus and Ryan Poles will try to ride with the new guy. And, sometimes those shiny toys give you a little longer runway, too. Bob.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Now, here's the thing. Caleb Williams is not participating in any of the drills or testing in terms of physically, but he is meeting with teams. And I can guarantee you one thing. Even though he's not going to be on the field, let's see, right over my left shoulder here, the Bears, right at about the 40-yard line with their suite, that is going to be a very popular camera cutaway for Daniel Jeremiah and Rich Eisen in the NFL Network broadcast, which you're going to see here at the top of the hour. So seeing what Ryan Poles is looking like, and that is going to be a big piece of it. All right, I'm excited to join my friends on Saturday for another edition of our NFL Plus Players Only Combine presented by Noble. I'll be there with Kurt Warner, Steve Smith Sr., and Michael Irvin for the quarterbacks and wideouts. And then my guys Maurice Jones-Drew and Michael Robinson will join us for the running back workout. Also might have an appearance from Allen Robinson. Excited to get out there and watch these guys go through the drills on the field. All right, we're already getting the first testing out of the way for the defensive line group. First group on the field. We'll dig into the edge rushers, who we'll see groups number 2 and 3 today on the field at Lucas Oil Stadium when we come back here on Combine Today. All right, back here with you on Combine today as we take a look at Bucky Brooks' top 5 edge rushers who we will see take the field today. Braylon Trice from Washington saw the national title game. Chop Robinson had a terrific career, explosive guy, could blow up the testing for Penn State. Jared Verse at Florida State. Latu, with a very interesting career arc, was medically retired at Washington, then transferred to UCLA and became one of the best edge rushers in the country. But they're all looking up at Dallas Turner from Alabama. You have at number 1, and Bucky might have had the most impressive measurements of any player who was measured today. At 6'2", just over 6'2", has a wingspan of 83 inches. That is incredible length, Buck, and he puts it to good use.
He does put it to good use. He's one of the rare combinations that you'll find as a pass rusher that plays with power but also can overwhelm you with his speed. And you talked about that length, that 83-inch wingspan. You see it when he pass rushes. Likes to stick that arm right in the middle of the offensive tackle's chest and dominate it. So it's the range that you love right away. Being able to play on the right side of the line, the offensive left, he does a great job of just owning his gap, controlling it, making sure that he's able to make plays at a point of attack. You see it all the time. But that's what we talk about. Stick it right in his chest and ride him back. Yeah. Everything that he does as a pass rusher comes off that one move, but don't get it twisted. He can bend and burst, he can finish, he can close. This is a terrific prospect, one worthy of being selected in the top 10.
The thing that I like about it is I remember watching Charles Cross in the draft 2 years ago, and I'm seeing this number 15 from Alabama. I said, who is this giving Charles Cross all this work from Alabama, number 15? And so I look him up. I'm like, Austin Turner.
Dallas Turner.
Dallas Turner. Oh, I don't have to worry about him for a while. It's a freshman. I got to worry about draftable guys. Now he's a draftable guy, and it's the same old thing. Like, he's got great speed around the edge, which is why that inside stab move opens up that Bucky talked about. If guys are so worried about the outside edge, they're going to overset, put too much weight on that outside foot. And so he's got a lot of different ways he can get to the quarterback. But the other thing I like is he's tough enough to handle the run. And if you play at Alabama with Nick Saban, you have to be. Like, it's mandatory.
Yeah, no question about it. Bucky, let's move to Latu. I mentioned kind of an interesting story that will follow. What impresses you about his game coming off the edge at UCLA?
Speed, speed, speed. One of the most explosive pass rushers that we've seen in the last couple of years, just in terms of his get-off quickness and his finishing ability. This is a guy that comes out of a track stance when it comes to getting it done. And what I like about him, he can do it on either side of the line. Right defensive end, left defensive end, three-point stance, stand-up position, come inside. Also has the ability to work him. This guy is a relentless competitor. Now, I know he's medically retired and we thought it was done, but the last 2 years, 23 sacks. A slop jar full of tackles for loss. This is a disruptive player, someone who specializes in making splash plays. That's why I think that conversation is going to be really interesting when it comes down to who's going to be the final number 1.
You talk about the explosiveness. Look, the thing that I love about him is the handwork. I think it's incredible, and it reminds me of a player. This is lofty, but T.J. Watt. When I watch him, I know.
We got a defensive player
But
of the
I'm
year
just telling you, when you're talking about a guy with 23 sacks in 2 years, a guy who was medically retired, when he gets off the line of scrimmage, not only does he have a plan, he's got very instinctive rush counters. So when you want to flash something at him, he's going on his counter. And I talked to him on the floor of the Senior Bowl. We talked, and he said, I go in with an idea, but I don't really have a rush plan per se. I just let them tell me what they want to do. I read the tackle, and if I see him overset, he thinks the game on the run, very fast processor, great hands, a huge toolbox of rush ingredients. This guy can bake the cake. He has the ingredients. Some guys have ingredients, but the cake's not there yet. This guy's already baking the cake with the ingredients. So I love Latu. That's a big comparison, but that's how he plays.
Some good technique, right? He's got
great
one of those
technique,
technicians off the edge. Let's move, Lance, to a player at the edge group who you have as the top dog from Florida State, and Jared Verse.
Jared Verse is terrific. I wrote him last year because I thought he was coming out. The thing with Jared Verse is he's got tremendous power and explosive power into first contact. When he hits, with his pad level, when he hits tackles, the pads shake and they rattle. Then if he wants to get rid of you, he's got a stack and shed game to him that is ultra twitchy. And as a pass rusher, he blends the ability to really carve out and really slice open the edge. If he gets to your outside edge, he's so powerful, he just caves in. Some guys have to bend and dip and finesse it. He does not have to finesse it at all. He can beat you with a power rush. He can beat you with a little bit of a get off into a speed to power, or he can really trim the edge with his ability to use those hands, violent hands, and cut the outside punch. And the other thing I love is as a run defender, he's a really plus run defender. He's got range to the sideline, but also, as I mentioned, he gets into players quickly and gets rid of them quickly. He is the best overall edge player, in my opinion, in this draft.
Yeah, he's a talented player. You're talking about extreme
Came from Albany.
explosiveness. Overwhelms people. The fact that he jumped into the ACC, dominated back-to-back years. Even though the production wasn't the same this year, the impact was still the same. Top-rated defense, and part of that was because Jared Verse was able to really make it happen.
So we remember a couple of years ago, a young man by the name of Montez Sweat absolutely burned up the turf here inside Lucas Oil Stadium. Next guy we want to talk about has that potential, Chop Robinson from Penn State. Bug. Let's go.
Because when you watch him on tape, he's like the road runner. He is running past offensive tackles. The funny thing is, when you watch him, he's a guy who has tremendous athleticism, burst, the explosives, all those things that you want to see, but you don't see all of the production. And sometimes in the Big Ten, you see that. Like, we've seen Michigan pass rushers not put up big numbers. We've seen Penn State guys, but then they go into the league and they have an immediate impact. Yeah. Chop Robinson's athleticism makes it where this guy is worthy of being in that conversation as a top 20 prospect.
You know, but he didn't have a tie. I think he had like 4 sacks this year.
Yeah.
And he was first team all Big Ten.
He missed some time, too.
He missed some time. They also rotated him out during games. But, I mean, when you watch him, I've got him as my second-rated edge rusher. And it's not because of the tape, because he's not there yet. Like, his tape is not second. It's probably 5th or 6th. But when you look at what he's capable of doing, there are not many players who have the get-off, the bend, the power, the explosiveness, the twitch. Everything he has is extraordinarily rare, and it's, you know, reminiscent of Micah Parsons, frankly. But Micah, you know, came from linebacker to edge, but he had played some pass rush. When you look at Chop Robinson, Bucky, he doesn't know how to rush the passer yet, but on just pure athletic talent and explosiveness alone, he's going to be disruptive.
By the way, don't sleep on his teammate Adisa Isaac, also coming off the edge in this combine. A guy with 81-inch arms.
Technician, too.
Today. And a closer. Let's move to the close of your top 5, and that's Braylon Trice here, Buck of Washington.
Worker bee. Just a workman, just a worker bee, a blue-collar worker on the edges. Look, it's not flashy. It's not the sexy sizzle that some of the guys we talked about in terms of coming off and just outrunning them. He does a great job of using his hands. He likes the hand-to-hand combat. He wears you down on second and third effort, and he finds a way to get it done. This is a workman-like player, not someone who will immediately come in and get you double digits, but in the right part of the rotation, playing opposite of a dominant pass rusher, he's the cleanup man. He's the guy that's going to clean up with a lot of sacks.
So those are the top 5 Bucky's edge rushers there. Lance, is there a player not on that list that you like?
Yeah, a kid named Austin Booker from Kansas, and he's one of the most challenging, one of the most unique, I think, evaluations I've had at the edge, because he's 6'4", he's 240 pounds, so he's a little slender, as you can see right here. Played 2 years at Minnesota, got 8 snaps. Went to transfer it over to Kansas and had right at about 500 snaps. But, I mean, this guy was all over the place. He has great length, almost 34-inch arms, and he is able to take those arms. That game that he had against Banks from Texas was a huge eye-opener. And, I mean, for somebody to have this little experience, he's got a long, quick inside counter step as an inside rusher. He's got some bend and flatten at the edge, and I think he's got room to get much bigger as well. So he's 240 pounds right now. If he can fill out to 250, and I'll tell you what, I'll never forget, it was December, I think, 27th when I wrote him up. And you know how I remember this? Because I watched him and I said, you know who this is? A guy I missed on before, Max Crosby. I was low on Max, and he let me hear about it. He had receipts on Twitter. He let me know where I had him. And I thought, Max is too skinny. He's underdeveloped in the upper body. And I said, I'm not making this mistake again. I'm giving this kid what amounts to a first-round grade.
That's big.
Yeah, he's not going first. He'll go second round, but he's going to have a big combine. And watch for him to be, I think, the unheralded rookie to come out of this draft class that came from a little bit off the radar.
One of those potential stars of day 2 once we get to the draft in Detroit. Okay, let's move to a little game we like to play called Matchmakers, because that is what the draft is all about, finding the player that you love that is going to be the best fit for you. So we're going to do that now with the edge rushers. Let's start, Bucky, with Dallas Turner, Where does he fit?
Well, look, man, he likes having that A on his chest like a Roll Tide guy. We're going to keep him in Atlanta, though, because A-Town. We're going to make sure he puts it down because when you think about what the Atlanta Falcons have needed, they were able to get a pass rush last year without having a marquee guy. Dallas Turner is the perfect fit. We saw on the XO tape his ability to turn that speed into power, to put that arm right in the middle of the offensive tackle's chest. He is going to create consistent disruption and production as an edge rusher.
I like him in New Orleans. I would like him with the Saints opposite Cam Jordan. I want to see somebody. We got the bully on the edge. I want to see the juice.
Yeah.
We got the bully and the juice, and I think what he does is he would give the Saints an immediate player who could start threatening. The left tackles in that division are not great, honestly, and I think Dallas Turner, I don't care if he's on the left side or right side, he's going to be an edge threat right off the bat, and so you may have to game plan to stop Dallas Turner if he's able to show that explosiveness early in his career. And even if you start him on the bench, he's a designated rusher who could have a big impact.
All right, Bucky, let's find a match then for Latu out of UCLA.
Okay, so I'm just thinking, we've talked about Latu and the speed, the explosiveness, the disruption. And I was just thinking, man, what would Brian Flores do with a guy like this off the edges? We think about that cover zero scheme that the Minnesota Vikings have been able to just completely create chaos with. Imagine having someone that's a proven pass rusher, one of the best pass rushers in the draft. Latu teaming up with Brian Flores in this Minnesota Vikings defense could be nighty-night for a lot of offenses facing them in the dome.
Well, I'm going to go Texans. I'm greedy. I'm
Homer.
keeping them at home.
You're being a homer.
I got a roughneck on one side and Will Anderson, and I'm going to have the technician on the other side. And if you put him with Will Anderson, I mean, Will Anderson is a ferocious rusher. This is a technician. You give them to D'Amico Ryans, and I think it's going to be real trouble in the AFC South. I don't know if he gets to 23, but I think that'd be a great match.
I think Jonathan Grenard's going to remind you he had double-digit sacks opposite Will Anderson.
He's a free agent. We'll see how that bag hits.
There you go. That's fair. Let's move to Jared Verse, Bucky. What's a good match there?
Matt Eberflus did a great job after he took over the defense in the middle, getting Montez sweating that defense up and going with urgent athletes. Well, let's give him Jared Verse because Jared Verse is urgent. He plays like everything is an ASAP matter. Got to be there as soon as possible. He gets there, has the power, relentless motor, nonstop energy. He's just a perfect fit for the culture that they've created on the defense side of the ball in Chicago.
I love that match. I really do. I'm going to go, though, with Minnesota because he reminds me a little bit of not the same type of player, but he's got some of that tough, rugged Minnesota edge to him that we've seen from pass rushers in the past, including Danielle Hunter, who is going to be gone. Danielle had, I think, a blend of the two, but I do think that when you look at Minnesota, they need to have rush, especially with Jared Verse, especially with Love coming up, with Goff, with Love. Hey, and now with Caleb Williams, you got to have some rush there, and I think that would be a great fit.
I love just this snuck Caleb Williams right back in there.
Oh, I'm sorry,
It's coming. It's happening.
I'm going back to the A block. Sorry, guys.
That's it. No, it's all good. All right, so there's a look at the edge rushers when we come back here on Combine today. Going to have a chance to look at the big fellas who are already trying to get their hands up into the sky on the vertical jump. How about big Tavondre Sweat right there, checking in at 366 pounds. We'll check in with all of them when we come back. You know, it's been interior defensive linemen that have really made some of the biggest headlines at combines in recent past. Jordan Davis 2 years ago. Obviously, you know, we had a guy like Kobe Turner this year nearly win the Defensive Rookie of the Year. We had Kalijah Cansey a year ago. Here's a look at the guys who could make their name here in Indianapolis this year. Bucky's top 5 DTs. Darius Robinson down there at number 5 leads it off there from Missouri. Chris Jenkins. Then you get the pair and two guys who could not be more different from the Texas Longhorns, and the big fella T'Vondre Sweat mentioned weighed in today at 366. Byron Murphy could blow up this combine, and then Johnny Newton, who unfortunately we won't get a chance to see, had a surgery earlier this year, so won't compete out on the field until his pro day in April. So, Bucky, let's start with Johnny Newton right there at the top. Why did he get that nod for you?
Well, he got a nod because when you watch him, he absolutely dominates at the point of attack on the inside. He is everything that you look for as a defensive tackle in terms of the urgency, the energy, the dog mentality. He has, when we look at the XO, it stands out. Talk about that first step. First step, quick, and he plays on the other side. Quick arm over. Man, no one wants to see big guy come through the club like that, unobstructed. Here we go. Once again, quick swim move. He's mastered this little quick arm over right there. Immediate impact. But it's not just his ability to win immediately. It's his relentless motor. Tough to cut off because he gets to the backside, he gets the crack. And here we say, the athletic pursuit. I mean, somebody from the hoot. Can somebody
can't show
Crimson and Cream, can somebody please block him? Can they block him? Somebody has to get a scouting report up.
There he
Outstanding
is right now. Johnny Newton supporting his group right there, the defensive lineman. But Lance, I mean, watching him against Minnesota, that play he had from the offense's right side and coming all the way around to make a sack on Nathan Kelly. I mean, he's got some impressive stuff on tape.
He plays with motor, but one of the things I really love about him that Bucky highlighted is his get-off is quick, so that's what makes him tough to cut off, but it also means he can get into your edge. So with good hand usage, and he's wiping away that punch, if it's your right hand or your left hand, all of a sudden he's got your edge. And once he has created a half-man advantage for himself as a rusher, whether it's attacking the arm or the arm over, as we saw both of them in the exos that we just showed you, I mean, that gives him a tremendous advantage as a rusher. And as much as teams love guys like T'Vondre Sweat, and we'll talk about him in a second, the drain cloggers, if you can rush from the interior, that's where the most value is in today's NFL.
And Johnny Newton, you know, who on Twitter, when it was put out there that he wasn't going to be running today because of the injury, said, it's too bad, I would have broken the record for the 40-yard dash.
Oh, we can't be saying that.
Like, I can go out there and say that now.
Yeah.
Johnny, like, come on.
Well, he said
bench press record.
Hey, he said,
I had to go to yoga today. I would have done
Are we ready at pro day?
Y'all are going to see it.
Are we ready at pro day?
I believe you, Johnny. I believe you, buddy. Let's move to Byron Murphy, Lance.
This guy might break the record, actually.
There you go.
Byron Murphy's my top defensive tackle. Watched him in high school at the Texas Longhorns at a camp. I remember he was not being recruited by Texas. And a friend of mine who has a growth metric said, this guy's going to grow to 305 pounds. He was 272 at the time. Texas ended up recruiting him, and the rest is history. He went from unrecruited by Texas to a first-round pick. He's phenomenal. I mean, the get-off is great. Great lean muscle mass. You see he carries great weight. He came in at 297, which means he's going to run for speed. He plays at about 305. He gets the most out of his length, not a long player, but you want to talk about relentless. I mean, he is a phenomenal athlete. So when he gets down the line, he's coming to get you. You see those big old thick arms? I mean, he is a player. I haven't seen what he's jumped yet, but he's extremely explosive off the snap, and he's extremely explosive with first contact into blockers. So he can really cause issues with the first phase of the block, which is owning the early positioning. He wins early positioning, and he's a great finisher as well. I love Byron Murphy. I love the talent. I love the motor that is every single rep for him.
Man, he sets the tone for the defensive line at the point of attack. I mean,
he
he's
said
just a
chosen
nasty
on
man.
his neck. You see
I
that?
mean, yeah, like,
Chosen,
just imagine
Bucky.
that. That's who I want getting off the bus first. I want someone who is intimidating like that. He's hostile at the point of attack, does a great job of playing with violence, and the physicality, the overwhelming physicality to go with his quickness makes him nearly impossible to guard, to block at the point of attack.
Okay, Bucky, going to come right back to you with his teammate, who is just a tad bigger.
A little different.
And a little bit different body type, 366 pounds, did not weigh in at the Senior Bowl, did here, and that's a good weight for T'Vondre Sweat.
It is a good weight, but we're gonna let a big old industrial-sized bottle of liquid Drano, because he's a drain clogger. You can't get, we can pour it all down there. He is not moving. You can't move him at the point of attack, and if you can just get his body down, just get him in shape where he can give you more than a couple snaps in a row before tapping out, he is a problem at the point of attack. He has talent. He's physicality. Team looking for a run stopper, man.
Gilbert Brown.
Oh, grave digger.
You remember him, the grave digger, but he's got first. I give him a first-round grade, and here's why. I know he's not going to rush a passer, but you ain't running on him. So if he can keep the weight under control, I'm telling you, he is a major, major factor along the interior.
By the way, Byron Murphy, a 33-inch vert, 9-foot 3-inch broad jump.
That's
that
good.
vert, second best among the defensive tackle group. We'll get to the guy who is at the top of the list as of right now here in a moment. But let's move to a national champion, Lance Zierlein, and Chris Jenkins with some family bloodlines in the NFL.
Always love bloodlines. Always love bloodlines as it pertains to guys who work hard as well, because they're going to come in with a certain level of skill and a certain mindset that other players sometimes don't come in with. With Chris Jenkins' dad was phenomenal. If you kids didn't watch him with the Panthers, woo.
His uncle, Colin Jenkins, too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, two guys that could ball. And Chris Jenkins does not have their size. Chris Jenkins, the young Chris Jenkins, he's not big like that. But what he is he's quick. He's relentless. And that game I thought the game against Washington was one of his best, because what he does is he always finds ways off the block. Like, you watch him and you think, well, this isn't a physical specimen, and yet he's off of blocks all the time and in on plays. I just want somebody who's by the ball all the time, because that means they're not being blocked, they're not being finished, and they have a capability of stopping runs for a 2-yard gain instead of letting it move on for an 8-yard gain. And that's the kind of thing that makes a big difference. And I think it's his athleticism and the relentless nature that does that.
Yeah, you saw him mugging for the camera, just like his dad would be. I mean, you just talk about the family business. When your uncle and your dad have played for a long time in the league, you kind of come into the league knowing what to expect. He's going to be a fantastic pro, and he might be the starter combine when we see him with his athleticism and the numbers that he puts up.
Great personality, too. Really big energy. Fills up the room. Dude that loves football. Look at him. Look at him go. He's ready to rock and roll. All right, let's move to Darius Robinson. Just a little bit of house cleaning to do on that. Defensive tackle / edge rusher.
I had to find a way to put him on the board. So sometimes you got to manipulate it and maneuver so he's not out there. I didn't want him to run up on me at the con.
But it's not wrong, because you don't want him running up on you.
Yeah.
He was defensive tackle in 2022. They had injuries at edge. He's like, all right, let me lose 10 pounds and I'll go play edge. You can play him either spot you want, bud.
Nice.
Man, look, he's a fantastic player. The motor is there. He is nonstop. He's relentless. He gets after it. He can give you the pass rush ability. He's stout against the run. And the versatility in today's game, if you can play outside and inside, man, it just adds more to your value.
That's the key, and the real key here is that he can't play inside, outside. What he is a sub-package rusher. So, he'll be a reduced rusher. He's going to be a base end, I think, and then when it comes time to get the quarterback, you bump him inside and you let the quickness get off on the guards. You see the body type is really phenomenal when you see it in person. He's got 34-inch arms. The guy weighs in at about 285 pounds, has carried over 300 before. So, really, if you want a 5 technique, you want a 4-eye, you want him to play a base power end, or you want him to be a sub-rusher inside, a reduced rusher, he can do all that for you. And that versatility Bucky talked about, that's what the league's about now. Don't put me in a box. I want to be a versatile player, and that's what he is. He's a versatile, tough player.
Lance, how about a guy not on Bucky's top 5 that you like in this group?
Brandon Fisk. I mean, the tape is just – you don't have to watch a tape. Just turn on a Florida State game, which a lot of you did. And Brandon Fisk is just he's beyond relentless. He's an irritant. Every time you snap the ball, like, man, this guy again. You know how, Bucky, when you have pickup basketball and you try to game it so somebody picks up, you don't want the one guy to pick you up. You want somebody else. If he lined up over me and I'm at guard, I'm like, man, flip it. Please don't let me have to block him. You see him? His change of direction, his ability to get past the blocker. And, he just won't stop. Like, he just won't let up and let you have a snap off. Like, let's just lay on each other and take a snap off. He won't do it.
Let's also pay off the tease from earlier. You're talking about the player who does have the highest vertical jump of that
That's
group.
my man.
33.5-inch vertical jump.
Longer than his arms.
Yeah.
31 arms, 33 vert.
That's it. There you go. So that works out. It's just kind of, one way or another. It's like a sliding scale with some of these guys. All right, so that's a look at the interior defensive linemen. Now when we come back, the guys who are the last group on the field today, it's the linebackers. So we'll be digging into that group, those off-the-ball players who might make an impact and fill those stat sheets for their respective teams whenever they hear their names called when we get to the draft in Detroit. For now, we are at the Combine in Indianapolis and back on Combine Today after this. All right, let's rock and roll back here with you on NFL Scouting Combine today as we get set to watch the defensive linemen and the linebackers. Rhett Lewis, Bucky Brooks, Lance Zierlein taking a look at Bucky's top 5 off-the-ball linebackers here. You got a national champion on the list from Michigan and Junior Colson, been a tackling machine there for the Maize and Blue. Cedric Gray, really good player out of Chapel Hill. Peyton Wilson, another tackling machine there. Jeremiah Trotter, you want to talk about another player with bloodlines. His dad, a great linebacker in the NFL for a decade plus. And then Edgerrin Cooper at number 1 out of Texas A&M. Bucky Brooks was one of the few guys this year to actually corral Jalen Milroe at quarterback in Alabama. That game was really some good work from Edgerrin Cooper. What do you like about what he does?
Look, I love the athleticism. I like the instincts, the awareness, his ability to control the game from sideline to sideline. It's exactly what you want from an inside linebacker. And in today's game, being able to play in space is essential. You see it here, the speed coming off the edge, making a big play. He just has this knack, this right now quickness, stop-start ability, and stoning power. There we see him stoning the running back in the hole. Getting here, just a reaction. Because he's so athletic and fast, he just shrinks the field for the offense. This is a terrific playmaker, a guy that can get it done in a variety of different ways.
He's a bloodhound. I mean, once you leave the pocket, good luck, because he's going to run you down. That ability to, by the way, we got to talk about this. With mobile quarterbacks, having a spy, having a guy that's not a DB that you can spy with a linebacker, legitimate spy, that's a big deal for mobile quarterbacks. And his sideline to sideline, as Bucky talked about, shrinking the field. I mean, we're going to talk about 40 times, but this guy can blaze.
Yeah, for sure. Looking forward to seeing him get after it here. That's the third group that's set to go, so we got to wait a little bit to see his 40-yard dash. We get another Jeremiah Trotter into the league here, Bucky Brooks, with the Clemson linebacker.
Look, it's amazing how many bloodlines, how many guys of legacy are in this draft, but Jeremiah Trotter is very much like his dad in terms of being a coach on the field. Instincts, awareness, high football IQ. He plays the game a step faster than maybe he will test because he just kind of has a feel for what is going on. Being able to control the box is because he just gets it from film study, from awareness, from instincts. He just makes a ton of plays. He is going to be a fantastic coach on the field for some NFL teams.
He's one of my favorite linebackers in this draft. Watching the tape, I love watching linebackers just know where it's going. And you don't do that unless you study the tape and you have natural instincts. And I agree with you, Bucky. I don't know how he's going to test, but 15 tackles for loss aren't an accident. He gets to the point of where it's going. He flows downhill. Super smart linebacker, super instinctive. One of my favorite in this draft.
Yeah, and Bucky's clearly got Carolina's bias here. We've got Clemson. Now we're going to go to NC State. We'll get to UNC here in a moment.
That's a bias.
All Carolinas.
Oh,
right?
I mean, all Carolinas.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, geographic.
Geographically.
But go ahead.
This one is tough. This was tough for me. Peyton Wilson from NC State. This is tough for me because I just had visions of him being a guy that played in a Tar Heel uniform. He grew up right there on the outskirts of Chapel Hill, decided to go to NC State, and I understand why NC State had to prime away. This is a guy that can stuff the stat sheet. Look, he reminds me a little bit in terms of the production of what Logan Wilson has been able to do for the Cincinnati Bengals. A little bit of coverage, a little bit of blitz, a little bit of playing traditional linebacker. He can do all of those things. If he clears the medicals, this guy might end up being the best inside linebacker in this draft.
That's the whole key. The medicals are the whole key for him. I mean, and I can see why North Carolina wouldn't want him, Bucky. I mean,
he's too good.
48 tackles for loss in his career, 138 tackles this year.
If you're into that sort of thing.
6'4" linebacker. I mean, who wants that?
I mean, why would you want a Leighton Vander Esch type?
DJ's number 47 overall player. So 3 of these guys in DJ's top 50 as well. Let's get to the number 4 guy on your list from your alma mater.
No, this is my guy. Okay. This is my guy, Cedric Gray from North Carolina. I'm going to get excited about Cedric because he is a Tar Heel. He is instinctive, aware. He has great IQ. Did a great job of being the traffic cop in the middle of the Tar Heel defense. This class is underrated because don't have many first-round guys. No one would probably grade out as a first-round talent. But second and third round, you can be able to get starters that are fast and physical. Cedric Gray is one of those guys, very productive.
And Mac Brown, Cedric told me a story how Mac Brown had to light a fire under him his freshman year, wasn't pulling his weight, wasn't kind of going through all of his responsibilities, but clearly got to him.
We need you to do more. You've got to make more tackles and make more plays.
There it is, and then became a team captain and a tackling leader each of the last couple of years there for UNC. Let's move to Junior Colson here, Lance Zierlein.
I'm a big fan. So, the league is going to speed, right? You want speed guys at linebacker, 225, 228-pound guys who can fly. I tell you what I like. I like guys that can thump. I like guys that can bang. I like guys who set the tone, and that's what Junior Colson is. When I watch Junior Colson play, I see a player when the ball gets downhill, he gets downhill at the ball. He doesn't sit and wait. He attacks downhill, and he attacks blocks. He can get rid of blocks. He's just extraordinarily physical for the interior. I shouldn't say extraordinary. That's a little bit of hyperbole. What I will tell you, though, is he brings exactly the energy to you. If you don't match his intensity and energy, you're going to be in trouble as an offensive line. So, he doesn't look like a big old, thick, strong linebacker, but that's exactly what he is. He plays like it, at least. He's a physical guy between the tackles who can range to the sideline.
You know what I like about him? I like whenever I watched him play against Indiana, he kind of raised his game. He raised his game against the Crimson and Cream. Like, they're just looking at the clips. I mean, he just seems
poor
like
Connor Bazelak's taking
just overwhelming
here in these.
Impose your will on the Hoosiers. Impose your will on the Hoosiers.
I will not handle this slander here in the Hoosier State. This is ridiculous.
I can report on what I see.
It's all right. I'm going to even things out for you in just a little bit. Don't you worry, Hoosier fans. All right, let's now get to the need for speed, right? But we were just talking about it. Lance talking about the move to speed at the linebacker position. Let's talk about a player that is going to get on the field today, so defensive lineman or linebacker, Bucky Brooks, who will run the fastest 40-yard dash. Who you got?
Well, Red, I'm not a gambler. I'm not a guy that puts money down on things. But if I had a few extra coins in my pocket, I would probably donate them and put them out there on Chop Robinson from Penn State. And the reason why he's a freakish athlete, explosive, dynamic, all of that. I just have visions of him going past the ticker tape flying. I think we're talking about 4.4s, maybe low 4.4s. And if he does that at 254, move him up. Move him up the board.
Hey, they test well. Penn State guys
they do.
are big.
Right.
Penn State guys and Michigan guys are big testers. I'm going to tell you who it's going to be, though, Rhett. Let me give you the inside scoop here. It's going to be Edrin Cooper, a guy that we just looked at. Bucky showed you how fast he was on the XOs. Well, let me tell you a little bit more about him. I talked to their director of sports science, who said Edrin Cooper hit 22 miles per hour running in a straight line on special teams. 22 miles an hour, ladies and gentlemen, is going to equate to a very fast 40. I think he breaks 4.5. I think Edrin Cooper out of the group today is going to be the fastest player out on the fast Indianapolis track.
Well, I like the GPS call out there because I got a player here that we haven't talked about that played opposite Dallas Turner at Alabama who rings it up on the rings it up on the GPS. No, he played at Alabama, and his name is Chris Braswell, and has gotten up there near 22 miles an hour. I mean, can put up 700 pounds on the squat rack, so has that kind of explosion in his game, and I think he could be one of those dudes to really light up the track today at Lucas Oil Stadium as well. So Braswell, one to watch, in addition to his teammate Dallas Turner. That was arguably the best edge duo in all of college football this year. Okay, guys, we are not done yet. When we come back here on Combine Today, we're going to hit the Indianapolis version of Wall Street, if you will. We're going to go talking skyrocketing stocks, Bucky. I know you like the portfolio. You got to check in on all the investments. That's what we're getting into when we come back. Guys who could win the day and the week here at Indianapolis and see their names propelling up draft boards when we come back. All right, after nearly a week, it's time to hit the field here at Lucas Oil Stadium, and here's a look at what you got coming up today. Defensive line and linebackers. That's the interior defensive linemen and the edge rushers, as well as those off-the-ball linebackers. Going to get their 40-yard dashes, all their testing and on-field drills exclusively on NFL Network and NFL Plus. We're here with you on Combine today. Until then, of course, taking you right up until the top of the hour. But now it's time to really set the stage. Out of the players that are going today, Rhett Lewis, Bucky Brooks, Lance Zierlein back here with you. Bucky, who is the prospect that will improve their stock and boost their draft profile more than any other?
I think from a draft standpoint, Chris Jenkins has been an enigma. I think they will find out more about him when he works out on the turf today. He is an explosive athlete. He's dynamic. He didn't have all the production at Michigan, but we've seen Rashawn Gary, we've seen others come from that program, have success without putting up big numbers as collegians. He is the next one to do it, but he's going to tickle that fancy with some of what he does today.
Yeah, I like that, and he really does have a chance to do it. I think another guy in the Big Ten will keep it there. A lot of Big Ten guys this year. Adisa Isaac, the edge rusher. You know, so Chop is the explosive guy. He's going to be the big tester. Adisa Isaac is the one who has the know-how and the talent to rush the passer. He's kind of already developed his pass rush talent. But Adisa Isaac, what I love about him is that if he runs well, if he jumps well, if he performs well in this combine, edge rush, we talked about all these edge rushers today, right? You got 5 or 6 that will go. You got probably 5 that will go in the first round. But this is the big deal to me. Who's the next tier? And if Adisa Isaac works out well, he's positioned himself to be inside that top 50. So I think it's a really big opportunity for Adisa Isaac with a good combine.
Yeah, I feel like he's one of those guys that gets better as the game goes on. Like you mentioned, you brought T.J. Watt up as a comp earlier.
Yeah.
Like you can count when the Pittsburgh Steelers need a stop late in the game, you almost count on T.J. Watt making a play, right? If he's out there, I feel like Adisa Isaac is one of those guys that you could call a closer, right? He comes off the edge, and you got to get a sack, you got to stop an offense from scoring, you got to protect the lead. That's something that Adisa Isaac.
Well, he's a technician, right? Yeah. So when you get fatigued, he's going to take advantage of it.
Yeah, love that. All right, but for now, it is time to stop the slander. It is time to set the record straight of the Cream and Crimson. It's time to talk about a player from the great institution of Indiana University and the great football program of the Indiana Hoosiers to shine. No, it is Aaron Casey's time at linebacker. One of the very best in the country, not even in the Big Ten Conference, at making plays behind the line of scrimmage. Over 20 TFLs this year. He is a GPS to the football. Look, J.J. McCarthy couldn't handle it over there in Ann Arbor that year. Made some big-time plays in the pass game, too, like you see here. Can get out there in coverage. And I remember talking to some of the coaches at the East-West Shrine Bowl, where, by the way, he led all tacklers in that game with his production. That they were like, he's just always around the football. Practice, game, he is a guy that gets to the pigskin and makes the plays when he can. So there you go. All right, Hoosier fans, we got you covered. Don't
Bucky tried to go 42 years back on you.
We might be wearing the we might be wearing the Hoosier sneakers. Where are we at? Oh, you can't see them. There we go. All right.
What are we doing? Like, what are we doing?
That's it.
Oh, my God. What would Bob Knight say?
Oh, no, again?
He's got Hoosiers underneath, too? I don't know. All right.
Oh, my God.
NFL Network broadcast, also an NFL Plus coming up. We're back here with you tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern Time here on Combine Today.
Let's go.